Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Learn with Jason. Today on the show, we have Phil Hawksworth. Phil, thanks for coming
Hello.
on.
Oh, thanks for having me. This is very exciting. I've seen lots of other people in this little square window before. It's nice to get my face in there. It's great.
Yeah, you look great in there. It suits you.
Well, thank you. Yes, postage stamp suits me. Yeah.
So, for those of us who are not familiar with you and your work, do you want to give us kind of the background story, your origin story, so to speak?
Oh, the origin story. How far back dare I go? Sure thing. So the background kind of pre-Netlify, because I work at Netlify now, but I want to go back a tiny bit before Netlify. So I used to work at agencies. I had about 9 years working at different kind of branding, advertising agencies, where I arrived there after being a web developer for a while, thinking, "Oh, I'm going to change the world." It's very naive and very grandiose, thinking, "Oh, people who are making websites for big brands, if only they did it properly." Well, little did I know,
I know this hubris. That's
self-important and ridiculous. And so I, so, but you know the thing where you look at, I don't know, Coca-Cola.com or Ford.com, or
right.
you think, oh, these people have got gazillions of dollars, so surely their website is the way to learn. So I'd look at view source and go, what's happening here? And so I went to work at agencies thinking that I could help. And that's where I discovered that there's more to it than just writing the code and getting it out into the world. So I discovered, all of the things that make, building websites for big brands difficult. One of them was content management systems, where, that litter your code with different code smells and all of those kind of things. So I started talking about that and started to look for ways to circumvent that. And one of the things that I kind of discovered was this way of decoupling the CMSs from the front end, and that led me to static sites. So I started talking about that a lot, and being convinced that that was the way to go, and not being able to persuade many people at all, if I'm very honest. But one of the tools that I discovered along the way was Netlify, amongst many others. I was building static sites using Jekyll and putting them on GitHub pages, and using tools like Surge, which is another one. All of these tools are emerging to make it easier to generate some files and get them out onto a CDN. And then one of those was Netlify, and I started kind of using that in examples and referencing those in talks, and then struck up a bit of a relationship with the folks at Netlify, and then just a few short years later, arrived at Netlify to try and persuade people of the same thing, really, but now with a Netlify hat on instead of an agency hat on. So I've been kind of banging on about this for a while. What's that? Oh, you've got some moves. Look at that. I wasn't expecting.
So it's one of my more ill-advised gifs. Yeah.
I'm excited to see more. Actually, I was watching. I'm sorry, this is a tangent already. I'm really worried about staying on track.
It's totally fine.
I was watching the Learn with Jason you did with Divya the other day, and enjoying the corgi count. And I'll be honest, I was a tiny bit nervous about this, but the thing that really makes me very nervous is getting enough corgis, because if there aren't enough corgis, you won't get to that lovely thing that happens.
Yeah.
And,
I have a feeling
that's pressure.
I don't know that the chat will ever not let us get through a whole episode without the corgi stampede. Especially
okay,
now that Papa Corgi himself just showed up. It's all
Papa Corgi. Who is the title of Papa Corgi?
Chris Biscardi, the original party corgi. But
original. Wow, what a
okay,
name.
so what are we doing today? I feel like we have a plan. I have a plan. Okay. We're gonna learn about image performance. And specifically, right. I think there are like two prongs to this, and we may only get through one of them. The first one is what makes images performant. So you've got a lot of experience here in, like, when I write an image tag and I put that on the screen, that loads an image, but it's not necessarily the most performant way to do that. So we want to dig into like some techniques and strategies for making that faster. And then if we still have time, I did some work on abstract syntax trees a couple weeks ago on the show. Mm-hmm. And what I thought would be really fun is if we get the lazy loading set up, we could try to write the AST transformation to turn a regular image into this optimized format for us so that we can like trust the machines to do our bidding, right?
Yes. That sounds good to me. That sounds like we could get some of the way through that, and who knows?
Yeah, we'll get as far as we can, and we can always come back later, right? So, let's dig right in, right? So, So everybody, start out by going and following Phil on Twitter. I think that's very important to get out of the way.
Right, get out of the way. Yeah.
And then we're going to do what? Let's get an image on the screen, right? So I'm going to create a thing.
That's a good idea. I mean, we can start with like an HTML page with an image tag on it.
That was kind of what I was thinking. So let's do image perf, and inside of this, I will open it in an editor. Mm-hmm. And now we can create a little index.html. And let's see if my expansions don't work. They insert snippet, HTML, no, doc, no, that's not it.
So I just do bang, or just do an exclamation mark and then do tab, and that usually completes the whole.
I know. I did this thing to make VS Code less noisy. And
now it's definitely silent.
It doesn't help at all. It's a head tag, not a header tag. And then we're also going to have a body tag. And inside of this, we need the, what is it? Metacare set UTF-8.
There you go. Yeah.
Let's see how much of this I can do from memory.
This is actually, you're missing a hyphen in UTF-8, but that's otherwise.
Oh, here we go. We're getting it out of the way early, I guess.
Oh, I'm so relieved. I'm so happy.
All right, so then the next thing that I want to do is let's go to Unsplash.
Yes.
And let's find ourselves an image. So say something very British and we'll find an image of it.
Oh, fish and chips.
Perfect. All right, let's do... Does that look British enough?
That does look British enough. Yeah. I mean, ideally it would be a newspaper rather than that's gaudy true. American red and white check paper. That doesn't.
Look, I like this. This is not newspaper, but they printed it to look like newspaper.
Yes.
Where's the real stuff, huh?
God, this could take a while, couldn't it? This is important.
You got to find the
in
right
the same
image.
way that you were trying to figure out the right condiments in one earlier on. This is
exactly. Well, it's important to get the critical stuff down.
Yeah.
Okay, I think Unsplash is letting us down. What else is British?
That's what else? Drizzle, regret, passive aggressive. I don't know. Tea. There's a great example. Tea, you're the queen. Let's go for
tea. Oh, that's good. Excellent.
There we go. We got some tea here.
This looks. How's this look?
That looks like a cup of tea. I mean, God, it doesn't look very British, but that's all right.
We need it. It's got to have milk in it, doesn't it?
Yeah. Or maybe teapot. Teapot would be the thing to. Yeah, there we go. There we go.
That's perfect. Let's do it.
Okay, I'm sold.
I am. Why are we downloading multiple files?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I saw that today as well, but
interesting new link.
I think it only downloads one thing.
Okay, so then I'm going to put this on Cloudinary because later we're going to do different versions of this, and I figured it'll be easier to do it through URLs rather than having to create different sizes and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Because we absolutely could download that file, and then I think that will be the source of that might be 1 meg, 2 meg, 5 meg, could be anything. And of course, we don't want to serve it just up as it is. So, maybe we might think about having either a build step that would optimize that, resize that to a few useful sizes, and maybe do some compression for us. Or, maybe we might do that manually through some other tool. There are loads of ways we might do that, but certainly we wouldn't want to serve it raw. So I like the fact that you're going straight to a service like Cloudinary so that we can host it there, and then we can get it back already converted to a bunch of images, different formats if we want.
Yeah,
and then we can use those just through the magic of URLs. I like having a URL which is the API to stuff. That's kind of nice.
Yeah, and especially for something like this, it just makes it so nice. Let's see. We'll put our source here. We'll do some alt, a teapot, and a cup of tea, and then I'm going to add that.
So what does
that HTML real quick?
Yeah, great.
Just make sure we give credit where it's due.
Yeah.
This one.
Cool. Lovely.
Excellent. This is a new thing that I'm seeing in VS Code that I really don't like, where it doesn't want to add extra white space, but it wants to show you where things go, and it's like just the twitchiness of that. Just ignoring it. That's what Prettier is for.
Wow. Okay. Fair. Yeah, that's giving me a slight eye twitch as well, but that's okay. We'll rise above it. I would definitely be accidentally deleting those.
Okay, pop quiz, Phil. Do you know the HTTP error code for I'm a teapot?
Did you? It's is it 518? 418.
418. Okay, let's check. Let's check his work. HTTP 418. Excellent. We don't have. We need like a game show. You got it right. Sound effect. Ooh, yeah, that's a good one. Somebody take a note. I will remember to do that later.
Yeah, that's good. I did. So it's a slight tangent. There's going to be a few of these. I'm really sorry.
Into it.
Slight tangent, and I know this is going to sound like an immediate advert for Netlify, but what the heck? So one of the things we can do on Netlify is in our redirects file, we can that's an actual HTTP code, Owly Pixel. So one of the things we can do is in our redirects we can say for this route redirect to this destination and return whatever HTTP response code you like. So you can return a 418 if you like. It's a valid HTTP response code. So I think in the previous incarnation of my own blog, I had /coffee would redirect you to an image of a teapot and return the 418. Nobody ever went there, but I felt smart for a while. But yeah. It's never funny when you actually hit one. So no, it never is. Yeah, it's funny only to the person typing. So I wasn't paying attention. What's been going on?
So I just
styling it up?
I just got it set up. Let's make that just even slightly smaller. I'm going to say that this should be a max width of, let's say, 400 pixels, and that'll help us illustrate a point, right? Because the other thing that I want, let's also make this just so that it's easier to see. We'll do display block. And okay, I started doing CSS. I'm so sorry.
It's gone down the rabbit hole. Okay, we won't finish this until it looks beautiful, and then we'll come back to other things.
Wait, needs a little bit of margin. Okay, I'm sorry. No!
That's... Yeah. Oh. It's tempting to put this in like a wrapper div and then have some kind of media queries on that.
Don't you dare. Don't you dare.
Okay. Fine.
Okay. So this is our little image, and we can see a couple things are immediately wrong with this. So if we look at the network tab and we load this image, let me turn off the cache so that we see the full size.
Yeah.
This image is 2.3 megabytes, and it's also like almost 6,000 pixels wide, despite the fact that it's only being displayed at 400. So we've got problems.
So your browser's having to do all that work, right?
Yeah, and it's super wasteful.
Yeah, exactly. So there's more stuff coming down the wire because presumably we'll end up hosting this not just on your local host. Also, the browser is having to the browser is having to do that work to do the resizing for you. Now, browsers are very good at that, but it's like you say, it's 6,000 pixels there. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of things happening. And we've only got one image there. I mean, it's likely that we may end up with a page with lots of images, so there's a lot of lifting that's having to be done here. So we can absolutely, of course, speed this up with doing things that people have been doing for a long time, resizing the image to something more suitable, compressing and what have you. So we can do that in a number of different ways.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So I think what would probably, I guess maybe let's just start. So if you were going to optimize this, what would be your first, what's your first step?
Well, I mean, so my usual step is I often have this in a build step, if I'm completely honest. I normally would think, I would give some thought to what is the logical largest size I will have this image at in my display. And I will go for a pixel size, which is something similar to that. And I will create, even as the first step, just that. So I would resize it down to that. So, I mean, we could start making some gains that way. But of course, we don't have this locally. We're serving this from Cloudinary. So maybe we just might think about...
We can resize it with the URL, though. So exactly, this is kind of one of the nice things about this, is it's going to give us the ability to do a whole bunch of stuff. If I can remember where it goes. It goes in here, I think. So this is probably worth thinking about.
Hang on.
So...
Right.
My first instinct here might be, this image is 400 pixels wide, so I should just resize it to 400 pixels. Is that the correct instinct?
Well, so I mean, we do have to think about things like pixel density as well. So are we thinking about high density displays that have got double the pixel widths and what have you? How is this always going to stay in 400 pixels?
So these are all very good questions. So let's assume for now that, I guess we'll take this step by step, right? So let's start with pixel density. So what is pixel density?
So some displays have more pixels per inch than others, and as we've started to see things like Retina displays, those have typically at least double the pixels per inch than we've traditionally seen on other types of displays.
Okay.
So often you'll end up having images at twice the pixel size that you might expect to display them at. So which is why you see images often saved in a couple of different formats with this kind of at 2x to kind of denote the difference, so you can programmatically choose which assets you might serve up.
Maybe we can just start.
Gary's talking about that.
Yeah, it looks like Gary is recommending 2x as well. So if we go to 800 pixels wide, that's what this little tag means, and reload, we get a smaller image. So let's look in the network tab at what happened. We have already dropped this down to just 47 kilobytes by doing that. So that is from 2.3 megabytes down to 47 kilobytes. That's an enormous savings. And the image looks just as good. We didn't see any degradation between these two. So what you just brought up, though, is this only needs to be 2x if we're at a certain pixel density. And there's also this whole thing, which I just realized I'm gonna have to fix the CSS for. But what if we're on a smaller screen? So let me let me fix that real quick.
So at the moment,
we'll go max width, and then we'll do a width of 100%, or we'll do 90%, so that it doesn't smash against the sides. So there we go. So now on a smaller screen, this is only 265 pixels. And so now I'm on a Retina screen, and I'm showing it at 400 pixels, 2x density, so I get that nice crispness on it. But in here, now I'm wasting pixels because the biggest I need is 614, 600? Something like that.
There we go. Yeah.
So that's 500 pixels would be fine.
Yeah. So, I mean, the good news is that browsers are good at resizing images for us, so that, it flexes nicely like that. But as you mentioned, we could be serving a smaller image at that screen width, so that we can save some of the bits and bytes coming down the wire. So responsive images are our way forward to that. So we might consider making some changes there to our element so that we can start calling in responsive images and different image sources at different sizes.
Yeah, I'm definitely down for that. How would one go about doing such a thing?
So there's a couple of different ways we can do that. We can either add different source sets to the image element, or we can use a picture element. Now, I'm a bit hazy on exactly what the guidance is for each one of these. Now, I believe that picture elements, which inside them have different source child elements, those are more typically used, I think, when you've got things like art direction happening as well. So if you've got like different crops and maybe even different assets visually, whereas using source sets within an image tag, I think that's closer to what we're probably going to do here.
I would, yeah.
Is that your understanding as well? Or
it is my understanding, and now I'm curious. Like, I wonder if it would be fun to do both. Like, set up the source set, and then maybe we can just throw together a picture element to show what that art direction looks like. Because I feel like that's something that I hear said a lot, and I've almost never seen it done. So it'd be interesting to dig into that and see what that actually looks like in practice.
Cool. Okay. Well, I mean, should we do source set first, and then I find the syntax for source set a little more than picture, but let's do source set first, I think.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it.
Do you want to do that?
And so that is just another element here, right? Like, I just throw it on.
So yeah, we add some attributes in there. So I think typically we'll want to start with source set, and source will be the last thing we want to declare, because I think it'll fall through. So we have there we go. This is a set of arguments in these attributes that are they're comma delineated. There we go. So the first of those is the URL of the resource.
Okay, so
we've got one there. So let's make them all the same first of all, and then so let's make that one just the same.
Okay.
And then we have a space in there, and then we have we describe how wide this asset is. Let's think of making this quite narrow. Let's say maybe it's 300 wide, and it's W rather is width. So with W rather than the pixels, and I forget exactly why that is. I'm going to look that up.
I guess it would be like, especially on density, that would be confusing, because if it's an 800 pixel image being displayed at 400 units wide,
that's exactly it.
Okay,
that's exactly it. Yeah. So let's say this one's going to be.
So Nikki's asking in the chat what the unit is for 300 wide, and I think that it's the like generally accepted whatever this unit is. So where it says that it's being displayed at 256 here, that's the unit. Yeah. So whatever the viewport width is in units, and what is that, like DPI? Or something. I don't really know how they.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm looking at. I'll paste this into the chat as well. I'm looking at the MDN for this at the moment as we're talking about it, and the description here is the image's inherent width in pixels. Does that sound any clearer to people? I understand it in how you're describing it there, Jason. Really, it's kind of display pixels rather than actual physical pixels.
Yeah. I would say that's probably the easiest way to think about that, is that it's the like, if you look at if you treat your website as though this viewport is always just in straight pixels, regardless of the fact whether the images are high density or whatever, then that's the unit. So if we're like, maybe the Retina display is giving us like 2.5 pixels per pixel, but that, like, as far as our cognitive model goes, it's a pixel.
Right.
So effectively we are,
can we go back to our,
so I'm looking at, to the code. Got it. To the code.
So we have a little more. We had to the code. We have a little more. We have a little more work to do. So we what we can do is we can create a number of these sets of sources with these source sets. So we should at least put another couple in, I think.
Okay.
So the way we do that. So all within that. It's all within that one attribute. So there we go. So it's comma delineated. God, what is happening to me?
I believe in you. It's gonna work out.
I believe in you. That's great. So then we can create some
would be, I guess,
higher width versions of these. Let's maybe say 400. And maybe should we make one at like 600 or 800, what have you? Maybe.
Yeah, we can go 600 because that'll be the 2x density for the smallest version, and then I guess the last one would be this 800 because that's the full size, right?
Okay,
I guess.
And so that's fine. And so what we haven't done, so at the moment we're serving the same image for each of those widths, right? So
we just want,
if we had a build step, maybe we would be generating a bunch of them and then we would be referring to them here. But since we can do that straight from the API, as you mentioned, from the URL, we can do that. Great. Okay. So we've got a bunch of them. But now we've got this list of these different sources in this source set. Mm-hmm. Now we also need to declare the sizes in here as well. So again, between the source set attribute and the source attribute, we want to add a sizes attribute.
Okay.
And this maps the screen width, that we want to display. So something that looks a bit media query-ish here. So in braces, we're going to have, I think I like to do max width so that we start stepping things up. So max width. And let's say, well, you added a bit of padding, didn't you? So let's say max width, hang on a second. Ooh, a max width, there we go.
Got it.
Of 320 pixels.
Okay.
And then we close our braces. And then what's the display width for that? So maybe we'll say 300.
And is that in pixels or width or
pixels? Yeah. Pixels.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we can add a bunch more by doing adding a comma, adding new lines, and then we'll add one for each.
But we can just kind of do it like this, right?
No, I think so. I think we want to have a new max width statement for each one.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So actually, here's a question.
What were you expecting there?
Well, my thinking is that this is for single pixel density, and then the 600 is like the double pixel density for the 300 pixel wide.
Oh.
And then this is the biggest it'll ever get is 400 pixels wide, and then that would be the double density. And I think the browser might pick that up for us. Might be.
I don't know. Okay,
you want to try it?
Let's experiment with that then.
Let's try it and see what happens. So we are at. Let's drop down. We're below 320. So what should happen here, because this is a Retina display, is we should load the 600 pixel version of this image. So when we refresh,
network. Yeah.
Okay. If I hover over this, it says current source. Hold still. Current source is our 600 pixel version.
Yeah, 600.
So it picked it up for us. Now, if I reload at a bigger size, so let's reload, and then I'll go in here again. Our current source is the 800 because that we're now above the media query requirement for the double density. And then no matter how big we get out here, this image will never get bigger than 400. So it'll always be that the intrinsic of 800. So we're getting double pixel density basically. Nice. I don't know the ins and outs of sizes. All I actually know is that when I've done this in the past, it's worked, and I kind of just stopped caring once it did what I wanted.
Yeah. It's one of those things that you write once and then you build a helper for it and then you put your faith in it.
Yeah. We missed a question. So Dryad asks what embedding means, and so in the context of this discussion, embedding means getting this image on the page. So when we write this image tag, it embeds this image into our page. And then we've got another question from Gary Tube. So would the browser re-download the image if the user makes the viewport smaller and potentially waste bandwidth? It only loads the image once. So check this out. So we're now at the, let me turn the cache back on. So if I keep the cache on, we've downloaded the image at 800 pixels, right? Because it's in the cache, if I shrink it down, we never download the image again. And I believe it pulls from our disk cache. Oh, and it already had a disk cache of the 300 pixel version, so it used that. So it should only use the image that's already in memory. It doesn't, like, the nice thing about this is that the browsers are designed to handle these problems, right? Like they built these APIs so that we as developers don't have to code these solutions from scratch. Like, am I getting that right, Phil?
So yeah, I think you're right, but I'm kind of curious about the situation if you scale up.
Let's find out.
So is that
okay?
Because
so I've disabled
I
the
think
cache.
maybe we're
at the 600. So let me scale up. It does download the bigger version. So that scale up.
Which is kind of what I would expect it to do, because the larger one might not be good enough to display at the wider size. I wonder if it's smart enough to do it the other way around. So if you were to, and then to down.
Never downloads.
To smaller. Oh, because we're using max size, right? So maybe this is down to how we write. Yeah, so this is probably down to how we write our media query selector there, isn't it?
I don't think so, because I think what it's doing is it's basically saying, like, well, if I already downloaded a big image, I can downscale that indefinitely. But if I have a small image, I can't upscale that indefinitely.
Right. Sorry. Right.
And so I think it's basically the browser being smart enough to know, like, well, I don't need to download a smaller image. I only need to download a bigger image.
Right. Okay, good. So
and the other thing to keep in mind, especially when we get into these discussions, like, this is the edgiest of edge cases. Like, no one but a developer is going to be like, "Oh, I wonder what happens if I drag this window around." It's not like nobody using a website is ever like resizing their window like that. Or I guess one edge case that I will accept: if you have a tablet and you change the device orientation, you may hit that point.
Yeah.
That's the only edge case that I will accept as a valid argument.
I mean, people resize their windows, but they're not doing this, are they? They're definitely not. They're not playing the accordion.
Yeah.
That's definitely true.
But yeah.
Okay.
So all right. So we've done. And here's another thing that's important to keep in mind. So like this image, the 800 pixel image that we're getting, is 47.5 kilobytes. And now I'm going to get down so that we get the smaller one. This one is only 32.5 kilobytes. And the reason that this is really important, and I think that we touched on it, but just to repeat it because it's so important, people who are using their phones are often going to be on slower networks. Like if you are out in the country, you're like in a tunnel, you are in a country that doesn't have fast connections. Like the every kilobyte that you download might cost you money. Like if you're on a pay by the megabyte plan. And it's definitely going to add time, and like real time, like seconds, not milliseconds, to your download. So it's definitely worth making everything as small as physically possible. To that end, I'm going to do a little Cloudinary magic that I forgot we could do. So we can do something called format auto. We can also do quality auto. And what those will do is, so we did 32.5 kilobytes. Check this out. Get out of here. 15.8. So with no visible change, we didn't do anything other than say Cloudinary make this better, and it was able to drop that size down by half. And the same thing for this bigger image, it went from 47 to 26. So that if you're using a service like Cloudinary or Imagix or whatever, most of them offer that like auto quality thing, and it is so very worth it.
That's amazing. So I didn't know about that that parameter on Cloudinary. I haven't used Cloudinary very much myself, so that's a great one to know about.
Yeah, I got turned on to it a little while back. They had me do a contract. I built like a Gatsby plugin for them,
Right.
And when I learned about all the stuff that it was doing just kind of for free, I was like, I should use this a lot.
Okay. That's cool. Yeah, definitely. There's a great site. I don't know if you've come across this, that Tim Cadleck put together, which is called "What Does My Site Cost?" Just on your, I just put it in the chat. Just you mentioning about the bits and bytes that you have to transfer. So you can this kind of looks at some of the pages of your site and looks at how much data it takes, and then I think it actually costs it based on the average cost of data in different parts of the world. It's kind of interesting. Oh, it sits on web page test, so it might wait for a little while for the API to run. But it's kind of interesting, and of course, page weight and asset weight isn't the only thing for making your site go fast, but it's certainly, like in places like this, it's pretty low hanging fruit. So just with those couple of changes already, you're improving your there we go, improving your whoa.
Yeah, so google.com costs 4 cents to load if you're on a pay by the minute.
Interesting. It's kind of alarming to put some of your, I found some of the sites that I've made in the past in there. It's
I know.
Like, crikey.
I was like, I really don't want to do this.
You're so, what a nice man doing that in out in the public.
But yeah, no, I think it's really worth, it's worth considering, because it's like, especially for somebody who, like, I heard a story, that in, like, there are places that are just getting the internet, like they're just getting they're like, they have one power line that runs into the middle of town, and like to charge their phone, they've basically got, everybody is just like plugging their phone into this one pole, and it just kind of has to hang there. And it costs a ton of money to charge your phone, and the data costs a ton of money. Oh, that makes me feel good. My website only costs 1 penny more.
And Google.com doesn't have much on it, so.
Yeah, I guess that's the power of using Gatsby, and they did all that work for me, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. So there's the initial page weight is pretty good.
Yeah,
you can strut around a little bit. That's nice.
Just give a little. It's all good.
There we go.
All right. But yeah,
so I wonder. So I mean, we could keep going down this road and start adding, various different source sets and sizes on there. I wonder if it's worth doing the comparison just with the syntax for the picture element as well.
Let's do it, because I've never written a picture element.
Okay, so I find it far easier to comprehend the syntax for it.
Okay.
But again, I know that they're intended to be used slightly differently. I feel like I'm a little bit ignorant about what's the appropriate time semantically to use picture versus image.
Okay.
But, so the picture element, it's a parent element. So you just open and close a picture tag,
just like that,
and then within that, just exactly like that, and then within that, we've got. So the first thing we'll do is the fallback. So if it falls right through, the default thing is an image element. So you can put an image element in there with a source, just as the way you would have done before. So if you want, but we don't want the whole source set. But
okay, so I'll just get rid of that.
Boop. Exactly. So that strange kind of wrapping of the tag end is really
it's
so
just
odd.
Atrocious, isn't it?
Yeah. But so then what we can do is, rather than adding different source sets, you add source elements. So each one each one has some. So yeah, exactly. Source. You want to close that? It's a self-closing tag.
Self-closing. Got it.
Yeah. And that has a source set attribute. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that is the source. So if we're going to let's start with the largest one, because I believe that's the way you want to organize it, from largest to smallest. So we'll do the largest one, and then another attribute on the source element is media.
Okay. And is that
here we put
like
our
this?
Exactly. Yeah. So it's just, so there you just put min width, and let's say this is our largest one. Let's say what do we say for that? Let's say 800.
800. Oh, you want to go like
go largest to smallest. So and that's it. That's the element. And then we add as many of those source elements as we like.
Interesting. Okay. All right.
So you don't have to do this kind of mapping from one thing to another and say, okay, at this size you pick up this element. Now, the one thing I'm not sure about now is how we deal with things like pixel density, which you did elegantly before.
Yeah.
So I must admit, I'm not 100% certain how that plays out.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I should probably do some Googling.
I need to figure out too, because we want to do like an art direction crop on this. So I'm gonna figure out cropping, because I know that there's a way to do it that'll like focus on the thing. So
it'll automatically focus on the
Yeah. So let me find gravity-based crops. I don't want a video, just show me a thing. Gravity auto, that seems like what I would want. So let's go with gravity auto. Did I break this? Image upload, gravity auto. That's right, isn't it? What did I get wrong?
That is.
Okay, so that works. So what did I miss? Oh, I think I need a fill. Like not a U fill, like a. I'm
gonna say I'm right here.
Okay, so that didn't really change anything, but I think we can. Yeah, like there's this kind of focus thing here, but really what I want is there's like an interest one where it'll focus on the facial detection. So I don't have a face.
Yeah.
Most interesting. No, G audio. Dang it. This
Maybe
is what I was
choosing
thinking
a teapot, we've flummoxed. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly.
Oh, well, maybe we just need to. Maybe we just need to like make it square or something. Okay, so that gives us a good crop. Now, if I take that one and then I make it real small,
nice.
I think it'll crop down to the. No,
it's still. Yeah, I'm not sure what the arguments they have for kind of the scaling versus cropping.
Auto subject, auto.
Yeah, we need face T detection. If only that was the attribute.
Yeah, wait, where's the auto T? Okay, subject.
Yeah. God, this URL's getting a bit funky.
Well, object? I don't believe you. I thought you just said subject object, didn't you? Oh, classic.
Classic.
What's happening? Classic? Okay, so that one cropped slightly differently than the subject one.
Yeah.
Oh, so it pulled like the T in like that. And then this one. Huh. That's interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, there's auto gravity. Oh my goodness.
Auto object. See, I put object in and it didn't work.
I mean, I wonder how much of this is a little dependent on the kind of things you have in the image as well.
Yeah, let's see.
I mean, look. So I mean, that's. Notice the cake is now front and center.
You can G auto teapot. No way.
Come on, no, there's no way.
Ah, damn it! That would have been magic. I would have lost my mind if that would have worked. How did they tag that cake?
Yeah, maybe that's just
picture of a kitchen.
It's recognized as being important enough.
Object. You need a
object
an
aware
add-on.
cropping.
Okay, so I could go turn that on. I'm not going to go turn that on. That seems like too much.
Okay.
So instead,
we're definitely going down the rabbit hole a little bit, but that's. I mean, wow, that's amazing.
Okay, so what I want instead is I just want something that's like more obviously cropped. So like this moves. We can see here that like on this side it's cropped kind of centered. Here it's cropped more to the left. And that's just going to show us that the art direction is working, right? Like we could have a different sized image at whatever. So this is going to be
also. I mean, I think at the larger size, we don't need to have the same aspect ratio. I mean, we can be messing with aspect ratios and all sorts, right? Because different sizes of.
Does that work?
Well, that's what I'm thinking, because different.
Let's try it.
Because depending on our CSS, the way we treat that asset at different screen sizes with different media queries, we might have all of these images kind of stacked up, kind of in line versus kind of working down the page. So, maybe we'll have them square and thumbnailed, which is why we'd have that art direction at the smaller sizes.
Gotcha. So I'm doing this the very wrong way and doing like really bad like media query, not maintainable.
Oh, wow. I see.
Yeah. Don't do that. But
it's good stuff.
What I think will happen here then is this. I don't know, let's see what happens. I'm just going to reload this page. Okay. So that is our full size one. And then if I start sizing down, didn't do, oh, there it goes. It reloaded.
There we go.
And so then it like art direction changes.
Yeah. But of course in the CSS, you had the image set to 100 or 90% of the width, right?
Yeah. That's cool though. And it shows the point. Like it shows the value of what this picture element does, because like if I was thinking about like a hero homepage, right? And so at big, full screen size, I want this picture of like, maybe I've got an investing app. So naturally I need a picture of a family eating a picnic. And so you see this like big field of grass, and there's a family that's kind of like off to the right. And you've got your text over the empty area of the grass. But then as you zoom in, that obviously doesn't work anymore. So you could use this picture element to like crop in on just the part that's interesting and move it to another part and change the
exactly.
That's really powerful.
Yeah, I mean, I really like that, but I also just prefer that. I find it much easier to see to understand the syntax of this as well, I must admit. So I'm fairly sure I've been misusing picture elements because of the fact that I like the syntax, and they're probably semantically not quite correct. But I think the way that you're using it there, I think that seems to be ideal to me. So this is nice. So we've got at different sizes. If we're kind of focusing on the picture element for a moment, we at different sizes, we're calling in the asset with different cropping, but also with different, different file size, different image size rather. So we've got something a bit more appropriate again at those different sizes.
Yeah.
But of course we could go quite a bit further, because we could start to think about things like lazy loading.
I think we should.
I think we should rock and roll.
And roll.
And there's a bunch of different ways to do this. And this is also something that's coming natively to the browsers. So I think it's recently shipped in Chrome. But we shouldn't just build things for one browser. Let's think about, and let's also do something a bit more interesting rather than just like whacking an attribute on there. Let's think about, first of all, how we might craftily use some of the tools that we've got now to implement lazy loading. Because we could say, until these images come into view, don't load anything at all, right? And that's fine. But another thing that we could do, since we've got this beautiful API that we can call in assets at any size and with any treatment, maybe we can use that to our advantage and say, let's always load these images, but let's load a very tiny version of it, stretched up and like downgraded until it comes into view, and then we'll do a little switcheroo and switch it out. So even though we're using different assets at different sizes, we could just decide that no matter what size you load the page up at, let's first of all start with a really tiny image, and then later we'll use some JavaScript to switch that out.
Okay.
So it feels like can we perhaps focus on the picture element for this and do it on the picture element?
We can do whatever you want, Phil. You're the boss.
Amazing. So I mean, what we could do is, so at the moment, you've got these different. I know you've spent all of this time crafting these beautiful URLs to give you exactly what you wanted, but what if we instead said by default all of these start with a tiny image, and then later we switch them out.
Got it.
Right.
So how tiny are you thinking?
Well, let's think maybe 20 pixels wide, something like that.
Okay.
Let's have a little look.
All right, and I'm gonna take off the crop part of this so that we. I feel like that's gonna hurt our feelings later if we're trying to do.
Yeah, right. Sorry, we know those things off by heart now, so we'll be fine to put those back.
Look at that little baby image.
Right. So what's the size of that now? So let's come down to less than 1K, right?
That's 800 bytes. 888 bytes.
Okay, so that's coming down to something that's pretty negligible to come down the wire and to come down a load. I wonder, actually, I mean, we could start to do things as well, like we could blur that. I mean, it's blurred already to an extent, but we've got quite a few artifacts there. So we could do something like, with some CSS, we could add some blur, or I wouldn't be at all surprised if Cloudinary has a blur filter. I'm not certain about that, but it's
how to blur and sharpen an image.
Oh, well.
Let's see. We don't know. We don't want to sharpen. Get that out of here. How do we blur?
Sharpening, thank you.
How to blur an image.
How to blur an image.
E-blur. Is that it? You just E-blur? Oh, and you can up the intensity. So
is there a level to which we can blur?
Yeah, that looks like
there we go.
An acceptable amount of blur. So we'll E-blur 400.
I think we might want to go pretty bananas because there's not a lot of pixels that are being, at the moment, the browser's stretching those up.
Right.
Now, I've never done this way. I've only ever used CSS to do the blurring. So I'm kind of curious to see how this looks.
Let's give it a try. We are at this one. No, nope, this one.
Oh, there we go. How's that?
I mean, it's not wrong.
Okay.
But we went 2 bananas. So let's maybe turn that down a little bit. Let's try 50.
Okay, and I'm also let's see. There's a question in the chat about what CSS property it is to do the blur, and so that you can use a filter. So there's a filter blur, and then you can give it a pixel value in the blur, which is the strength of the blur, like the radius of the blur.
So this is cool with like 100. But let's do it with CSS as well, just to show how that would work.
Yeah, I'd be curious.
So we can go in here and say, did you say filter? And
filter,
then blur.
Filter, blur. There you go. And I would go for maybe something like 20 pixels blur. But you're going to see some interesting things happen there, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So at that point, you're going to have to start thinking about, well, we can apply the filter to the image, but we don't want to do that, apply it to the picture. So we can maybe start to use things like the picture to crop the image once it gets blurred. We do get into kind of CSS shenanigan territory here about kind of having no hidden overflow on the bounding picture element and things like that. Mm-hmm. There's definitely ways that we can make it so it's kind of nice and sharp, but it might be that we go down a CSS rabbit hole and it's going to be more interesting to do some other stuff. But
what's also interesting is like if I add this border.
Ooh.
What color do you think this is?
Did that blur the? Wait, what's happening there?
Oh, it's blurring the.
It's blurring the entire element, including the border.
That's wild. That's interesting.
But you could add that border to the picture element rather than the image element.
Oh yeah, that's weird that it does that.
Yeah, okay. That surprised me actually.
Yeah, I didn't realize that would happen. Okay, so that's a thing that's happening. Let's not worry about it. Let's not worry about it. We've got this thing. Let's just do. That'll work.
Perfect.
Okay, so this is a relatively blurred image. I'm going to turn it up just a tad more. like turned up to 150. That seems like it'll be a good number.
Yeah.
There we go. All right. So this is it. It hints at what's inside. Doesn't give us any artifacts. Won't be surprising when this fades in underneath it. So that seems like a reasonable way to roll forward, right?
Yep. Yep. So now we need to detect when these things come into view or not. And we can do that with a bit of JavaScript. We can do that with something called an intersection observer. And that is designed precisely to help you determine whether something is in the viewport or not.
Okay, so I'm just going to make sure that it's off the viewport.
Excellent.
And then we need an intersection observer. So that is going to be in the script.
Yep.
Okay. And then should I just like grab the picture, the images? What do you want to detect?
Let's do it for the picture. So ultimately what we want to do is, I think it's probably best to do it for the picture element, and then we can take some action on all of the children of that, because effectively what's going to happen, the logic of this is when we detect that it comes into view, we want to switch out the source attributes on those child images, child elements.
Got it.
Right. So you're quite rightly collecting that, and then we want to add an observer to each element that we found. I mean, we've only got one, so that's absolutely fine.
Yeah. Do you want to do it as like an all?
We can. Yeah, maybe because then you could maybe add a few more. I don't.
Let's do it. Let's do it because then we can show the process of scrolling down, right? So you'll scroll down and see an image. Nice. Yeah. Okay, so we'll build it for all pictures on the page. Eco, to answer your question, the blur does not reduce the image size. The blur is just to make it look a little less like goofy. Yeah, Eco, we're definitely going to run out of time, so we will get this built, and then I'll do a follow on to basically turn this into an AST transformation later.
Yeah.
So let's dive in. So I don't know what the intersection observer syntax is.
Or the API. Okay, so we create a new so we want to instantiate this. So let's say var observer equals a new intersection observer. Oh, sorry, beg your pardon. Constant.
Intersection
observer.
And then is there any?
It takes two arguments. So the first of those is the function we'll call when something is observed.
Okay.
So we can, if you like.
Or do you want to name it? Let's name it.
I kind of like naming it, but I think it makes it just a little bit easier to read. So, I mean, I'd call that, let's call it lazy load. And in a minute, we'll create a function that we'll call lazy load.
Okay.
And then it also takes some options. And so this is just an object. So we can put that straight in here. And so there's a couple of arguments that we'll put in here. So one of them is threshold. So threshold, and that takes a floating point. So let's put that at 1.0, at 1.0.
And what does this mean?
In other words, so this is to what percentage of this element has arrived into view. So if we put it, and that can be between 0 and 1. I don't know actually what happens if it's at 0, but because it has to be something. But if we put this at 0.5, when half of the image element had scrolled into view, that's when we'd fire our lazy load function.
Gotcha.
So maybe we'll put it at 0.5, so it's like as it's half in,
it'll start to load.
Then it'll start to load. And it takes, we'll add another option as well, which is called root margin, which is lowercase r. Yeah, we go. And this takes a pixel height. Now, I think this is a way of adding almost like a margin around the capture area, like the canvas almost that we're looking at. And we can play with some of these values. But maybe if we set that to like 20 pixels or something, that'll get us rolling.
Okay, that works for me. And is it like a string, like 20 pixels?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
okay,
exactly that. Okay, so all right, so that will create our observer. So we want to attach that to our images.
Okay.
So yeah, so I mean, what we could do in that lazy load function, let's finish that first. First of all, finish that thought first of all.
Okay.
Maybe we'll just console out the element that's been passed to it.
And is that the only argument? Is the element?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And we can see when things come in. Yeah, cool. And then maybe just after our const of picture L's that you've at the top where you've looked for all of your picture element with your query selector all. Somewhere let's just iterate over that maybe with a for each, and then we'll call observer.observe and pass it our picture. Exactly. Oh, great stuff.
Like that.
Yep. That looks good to me.
Okay. Let's run it and find out what happens. So we're in the console. We see the intersection observer. And now when we scroll...
There we go. So it's found...
So this gave us the entry, and it gives us a target. So I think...
I would have thought that would just purely pass in the element.
Let's check it out. MDN intersection observer.
Yeah.
Right.
To the MDNs.
That's you need your best Adam West voice. To the MDNs. That was bad. That was the wrong voice. I shouldn't do impressions. So the observer callback. What does the callback get? Callback entries and observer. So it gets, I think, everything.
Oh,
yeah, got it. Okay, so the target is what we really need.
There we go.
Okay, so we'll refactor this to be entries, and then we'll do entries for each. And then it's we'll just destructure that because we just need the target. And then we can drop this in here and do the target. Okay, try that again.
Let's see how that fares for us.
No, here. Oop. Okay, so it immediately logged the picture, which is odd.
What that shouldn't be, should it?
And then it logs it again when we get down here, and again when we get out. Oh, there's a thing we gotta check. Whether or not it's in screen. Because it's gonna tell us whether or not it's being observed. So where's my callback? Is intersecting.
Just a sec. Yes. So you're quite right. It's the intersection ratio.
So we can just bail early if that's the case. Because there's this just straight up is intersecting. And I believe that now we should only see it.
Let's see. No, why is that?
Why are you like this? Oh, wait, no. So it started out right, but it's still logging too early.
Why would that be?
All right, so let's do it this way. I'm going to get the entry, and then we're going to console log that entry, and then I'll just destructure this. All right, let's try this again. So here's our entry. And it says it is, this time it would be intersecting. That's normal. So you should not be intersecting. What?
I think it's the intersection ratio we need to test for. I think if the intersection ratio...
But this says the intersection ratio is 1.
For which one is that? Is that... Oh, that's the one that we don't expect to be on the page.
Wait, I have a theory. I think that it's because this image starts out without any container. So let me change this to be, where is it? Instead of being 80, I'll make it 110 so that no matter what, this is out of view.
Oh, okay.
There we go. So it's because there's that split second where this image, because we didn't write a container to maintain the aspect ratio. So,
right, okay.
So this is,
I see.
For a brief moment, this is 0 pixels tall, and that was letting it pop into screen and then it would pop out. So now the entry is false, and when we scroll down, there it is. It shows up.
Boop.
Scroll out.
There it is.
We get an entry, but it's not intersecting.
Right.
And it is. Hey, there we go.
And really, what we want to do is we only want to do something when it arrives, right? So
Yes.
we can. So at the point, so in our function, in our handler there, we want to stop observing it. We want to call a function to. So you can run observer.unobserve and pass it the element that you want to stop, which would be our target.
Okay, so now what should happen is it will log once and never again.
Right.
Once and never again.
Yeah, exactly. So, but before we kind of throw it away, we actually want to change. We want to change some stuff. So at that point, the plan is to switch out some sources.
Okay.
So if only every child element of the picture was a source set and there wasn't a source, because we could just treat everything exactly the same. But ultimately, what we're going to do is we're going to change that. Going to change some URLs.
Okay. Should we add the appropriate URL as an attribute or something, or how are you calculating these?
So, I mean, the popular way to do it. So the way typically to do it is to add a data attribute, and so you can switch those out. I also like thinking of doing it slightly different ways. So, so either having like a collection of the arguments that you're going to use, and then build those on the fly for each one. So, if like for every like larger image, you're going to have whatever the width is that we had here, the width of like 200 and 400 and 800. You can almost kind of build these up programmatically.
Okay.
Because that way we're just manipulating the URL rather than explicitly creating having to make very verbose data attributes on all of the elements. So it could get a little bit funky with some logic to kind of step over the different sizes that we want to add to each of these things.
Yeah, so maybe the way that we could do it. So there are a bunch of ways that we could do this, right? Like we could grab the media value and then like just string match for this, which would be, I mean that's like solving the problem with a hammer, but it would solve the problem. We could do something like this, and this won't load because it's just an attribute, and we could just swap that in. That would be.
Couldn't we? Should we do that?
This might be the least hacky way of solving this problem.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so I will set it up as 400. And then we can detect pixel density here, can't we?
So I was just looking that up, and I can't see how we do that on in the device. Oh, let's see.
That's not what I want. Media queries, media. I feel like I've seen this before. So let's see if aspect ratio, device aspect ratio. No, that one's not. That's wrong anyways. Chat, if you know this, resolution.
There you go.
Resolution 150 DPI. That's not helpful.
This is gonna that's not quite what we want.
Min resolution. Oh, so we could do like min resolution. We could just double it. So if it's by default, it'll be here. So we start. So let's say it's like this. Like we start at 400, and then we can say min resolution 144 dpi.
Okay.
I think would work, because then what that's testing is that we want it to be 400 pixels wide, and then this would be like 2x density or higher.
Yeah.
And then if that's the case, then we would just drop in an 800 pixel image. And then we did it. Like, hooray, celebrate.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm curious. I haven't introduced the resolution kind of variable before here, so we can absolutely give this a try. But I mean, we can prove out the principle of this, first of all, right?
Yes, let's prove it out like this. We'll do a 200. So this will be our little one. This will be the big one, and then if this works, we'll get the extra size. So
I want to just double check about the order that those have to be specified. Just want to double check about that.
Yeah,
because I had a feeling that there was that did matter. But yes, but nonetheless, we can start wiring in the switcheroo that happens where, as the element comes into view for every child, we switch out.
Right. So we would
the
want
data source for the
equals target. Oh, what is this? It's attribute. Get attribute.
Get attribute.
Get attribute. Is it like full length like that?
Yes.
And then you skip the data, right?
So what do you mean skip the data?
Like it's you don't have
see.
To add
sorry.
The... Should I look this up?
I don't know. I have to check
that. Let's just try it. Yeah, I'm gonna see what happens if we log.
I'm a Googling machine now.
All right, so I'm just gonna test this. So what happens? Real source set is null, so that was incorrect. That was also incorrect. To the MDNs.
To the MDNs. Oh, we're all over MDN at the moment.
This is my whole life. Get attribute. Element, get attribute. And the attribute name, align. Will show me the div though. It's not helpful. It's really not helpful. What?
Wait,
what is? That is completely unhelpful. You didn't even show me code. Oh, that's terrible.
I think the rabbit hole that we should go down here is we should research this and then submit a pull request to the MDN docs.
No kidding. Okay, so here we go. We're gonna get.
Here we go.
Oh, it's under data set.
Ah.
Okay, I can manage that.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Yeah.
So target data set, source set. And now, no, that's not it either.
Why not? That's
data set, source set. Did I spell that right? Data, source set.
Yeah.
Am I getting errors?
I didn't see anything.
Oh, I know why. It's because it's using the picture element. It's not getting the source inside.
Oh, yeah, we look at the children. Yeah, we need to iterate over all of the children, right?
Are we gonna have to calculate which source is the current source, or does it just know?
Which source? Which element?
Or are we just doing this for each one?
No, for every. So the idea is that we'll change it for all of them. So
got it.
So
okay.
Because we want to say no matter which size you're in, now you've got a definition for the size. Because before we were kind of brute force saying we don't care what size you're in, you're only getting a tiny image. So now we're swapping things for the correct one. So yeah, there you go.
Is this...
wait, sources is no. So we want to step over the children of that element, because the element that came in.
Right. So I've got the picture element is our target, and then I'm looking inside of it for source elements.
Yeah. So I think what we want to do is for the target. Yeah, as you say, the target is the picture element. So we actually want to get the children of that, and then we'll iterate over that.
Okay. Is that
See what I mean?
Isn't that what this does? Like we're looking inside of the target for source elements.
Oh, I suppose that's true. Yeah.
I mean, I'm
quite right.
Yeah, I think this.
Indeed. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. You're quite right. Yeah.
So then I'm gonna change this up here, and we will go with the source.
Source.
Try this.
How are we gonna?
Hey.
Ooh.
2, 4, 8. Okay, so that's working. So then we just need to move it, right? So I'm going to source set. Is source set camel cased? We'll try it and find out.
I have a feeling we might want to do set attribute on that. But let's see. Let's see if that will work.
That. I'll do this. Source set, and then we'll use real source set. I've never used this one before. Yeah, let's try it.
That feels more familiar to me, but that's every time so far things have burst into flames. Oh.
Okay, so it kind of did stuff. Oh, it did it. It did it. Oh. But it used the wrong one. Why? Is it going to show me which one it's actually using, though? Oh, it's using the fallback.
Oh, so that's not working.
That doesn't seem right. Like, what broke here? Because these are valid.
Why is it using the fallback?
Maybe I got my... Maybe... Let me take out that resolution one, because maybe that's just wrong. That's still not it.
No.
What are you doing here?
Oh, I was going to look up the order, wasn't I, to see if the order mattered? Because I'm fairly sure that it matches the first thing that it finds and then stops.
Is it going to match this one? Oh, there we go. It matched this one. So it did something.
Wait.
I inverted the order. I just switched them up. So I put
I think it will.
Oops.
Hang on, I really need to find the docs for that.
You're so much more like responsible about this. You're like, oh, I'll go look it up. I'm like, nah, I'm just gonna try stuff until something works.
Keep trying. I mean, I'm fairly certain that we want to have them in descending order of size, with our fallback at the end. But that's based on memory, not on reading something from a doc. Because you've just given me full license just to go rogue.
Yeah, I mean, do your thing. However, how do I set? I want to see multiples in here because I feel like I'm doing that wrong. Media. Show me multiple media queries. Can it be both? Oh, is it and? Yes, it is. That's what it is.
Oh. Let's see what happens next.
Show me potato salad.
Oh.
No, I fell back to the image. So this is now.
Oh,
that's invalid now.
That's no good.
Well, that's terrible. All right, so fine. I'm gonna look this up. That's picture element.
Yeah.
Media. Let's just bounce through and see if we can find an example of multiple things. Similar to a media query.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Wait, why does this work?
Pixel. Oh,
maybe we should
that's
just
better.
Yeah, that's easier. Let's do that instead.
Let's just rather than finagle it, we'll do it the way.
All right. So the way that works then is I've got the first image, comma, second image with the 2x. So let's do that. I'm going to drop this one out entirely. First image, second image, 2x. And then we'll do the same thing for this one. The first image, second image, 2x. And we'll make this 400.
The previous one was 400, I think.
Okay, did you do it right this time? No, that made it worse. But this seems to be valid. Huh. What am I missing?
Yeah.
Source set. I don't know.
I'm stumped on that.
Is it? Wait, is it just like? Am I? Oh, this is also loading a bunch of these. Let's see. That's the baby. That's the bigger one. So that's the 800. Is the 800 coming out of here? Yes. So that's the wrong thing. What happens if I just take the fallback out? Like, will it recover?
Oh, this is a good question.
It shall not. So,
well, yeah.
Something in here is just invalid, right? Did you work just like this? No, that's still the wrong thing. Huh. Is it because these are like, do they all have to be completely valid in order to work? Or if it just falls through? Because that would be confusing.
I would expect it would just fall through, yeah.
Yeah, but it's not picking those up. So, something.
Wait, how are we sure? So, how are we testing this right now then? So, what are we expecting to happen as we scroll in?
It is doing what we expect. So if we reload this, we can see that here's the 20 pixel and the 20 pixel.
Yeah.
And if I scroll down, it replaces with the right images.
Yeah.
But we lose, like we're not actually loading.
But it's not triggering it, is it? It's not.
Yeah. So I wonder.
Hang on. So because I don't know how wide your screen is, but we should be at least at min width 200, right? So we should be seeing the second one. What's the screen width there?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So we should be seeing the top one. Yeah.
And it just falls straight through to this other image. How does Gatsby do it? That's a great question. Let's go look. Let's see. My site has it on the home page. I know that it does use a picture element, so this one also falls through. It just falls through. So why?
Something's not quite.
Image WebP. Because it should be loading the WebP, which would be not that one. This one. No, it does load the WebP though. So which one is it actually loading? Let's see the response headers.
Yeah.
Response headers. It is loading. Maybe the dev tools are lying to us. Though I don't particularly know how to prove that.
No. Can we just take one quick look at the code once more?
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah, that that seems right to me.
Let's look one more time at a picture. So this source set doesn't have media on it at all. I'm very confused about how it source set type WebP. Okay, so that's like if you want to fall back. Media, min width, 600 pixels.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So we're just checking if the media falls back. Like, did I min width 400 pixels, min width 200 pixels?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna.
This is.
Oops. I'm gonna drop these out real quick, and I just want to see if maybe it's something to do with like our observer. Let's just skip the observation right now, and let's see what happens.
Oh, we've got everything set to the tiny thing.
No, but check this out. It's still showing me the image and not the sources, but this is definitely a blurred image. So the dev tools are lying to us right now. Like the dev tools are telling us that it's showing this 800 pixel image, but it's definitely not. It's showing us one of these. So let's see.
Yeah.
So I can make this like, there's an easy way to make this different. So let's do, I think I just do like grayscale. Okay, so it's not that one or this one's broken.
What?
I'm probably getting this wrong. Whatever, it's fine. I am going to take the blur off of one.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think it's showing us this top one. So if I take the blur off, and that would make sense because it's the min width 400, and we're over 400.
It's what it ought to be. Yeah.
Okay.
There it is.
So it actually is working. And let's verify that by putting all of this back. There's our source sets. Okay. Yeah. Now I am going to figure out how to make it grayscale. So Cloudinary grayscale.
Okay.
Because then we'll be able to see, like, obviously this worked. I'm going to use E grayscale. So that actually should have worked. Data source set. Oh, part of the problem is that we're blurring the full size image, which obviously would have been an issue. So I think we just made a series of small mistakes that are haunting us. So,
Domino.
There we go. Okay. So it's working. We load the page, right? And then when we come down, it switches over to our grayscale image. So that is the effect that we were after. And if I take this out then. Okay, so I
wonder what our issue was before then. I wonder what that was. Do you think it was just that we'd mangled some of our URLs?
No, I think it was DevTools lying to us. Because DevTools still shows that this is the image and these don't show anything. So it makes it look like it fell through even though it didn't. So that's just very confusing. Okay, well that's a request from the request for the Chrome DevTools team is
for the Chrome team.
Yeah, make that a little easier to understand. But yeah, so that did what we wanted, right? And so that's good. That gave us what we wanted. Let's see, we're pretty much at time. What I would love to look at though is you did talk about the native element or the native lazy loading support.
Indeed. Yeah. So so this is now arriving at and some browsers, and so it's not a cross-browser compatible way of doing this as yet, but you can, of course, check for this. But the way that you do this, if we're just going to blast through and just purely do it with Chrome, is we on an image element. In fact, this is for iframes and image elements. They now accept a loading attribute, and that can because we are muddying the waters by having responsive images for our examples, of course. But the loading attribute is it can either take lazy, eager, or auto. So if we use lazy, then the browser will load it just when it's needed. So effectively, it does some intersection observer type stuff for you magically behind the scenes. If you say eager, it will try and do it immediately.
Okay, so I want to see if
it works at all.
Is this loading? Let's make this. Let's make all of these different numbers.
So there's an interesting question about, would this fight with the intersection observer? And I think what we'd want to do is we'd want to use progressive enhancement here, so we can test for whether or not the lazy attribute is supportive, and then we can do different things accordingly.
So this is kind of interesting. I'm wondering, does it show us what the timing? So did this start? Whoa. Maybe not. That's maybe more than I can handle right now. What I'm curious about, though,
it's kind of hard to test it, isn't it?
Yeah, like, because what I don't know is, because what I would expect would happen is that Chrome is smart enough to start loading those images after everything else is on the screen, and it appears that that's what's happening, because this is that 20 pixel blurred version. And then once that finishes, it appears to have started downloading this image, which in the DOM order, this image is first. So if I take lazy off, so everybody just take a mental snapshot of this waterfall. So we download the HTML document, and then it starts downloading the 20 pixel placeholder image that's at the very bottom of the page. And then it downloads our like image tag. So if I take lazy off, what I think is going to happen when I reload the page is we're going to see this order flipped. It's going to block to download this 810 pixel, and then it'll download this 20 pixel. So let's try it.
Oh.
So here's the 810, and here's the 20, and it looks like it kind of ran them in parallel, actually. Which is not necessarily a bad thing, but like, if we think about this on a page that has lots and lots of images, right? If you've ever downloaded a page on your phone and the whole page is unusable until like the header image comes in, this would solve that problem, because what you're basically saying is get the page interactive and then do stuff, which I think is way better than like, basically, we've solved this problem with JavaScript, but like the browsers are now trying to solve it natively, which will make our lives significantly easier.
And it is kind of important to test for if that's there. And again, you can see if loading is available. That loading attribute is available. I've got a little blog post on doing some bits and pieces about that, which will be probably easier than describing it. But you do have to be quite careful about whether or not you'd end up just loading everything for all of the other browsers, or indeed if you're going to leave things in a state where you silently load nothing. So you can get yourself in a pickle if you're not careful. But the fact that browsers are starting to add this natively is going to make life a lot easier.
Yeah, and it looks like there's an article. I just dropped it into the chat. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it looks like it digs into this. It also looks like it's going to tie into that question about the intersection observer. From my very scientific observation just now, they don't clash. Like the lazy loading from the browser is happening here. Wait, I need to put it back in, don't I?
Mm-hmm.
So the lazy loading from the browser drops that to the bottom of the queue. It just basically deprioritizes it in the loading order.
Yeah.
Which is the whole idea of resource hints, is we can say, I need this before the page is usable, or I don't need this. And by saying lazy, we're saying we don't need it before the page is usable. And then when I scroll down, the intersection observer works. So this appears to do what we want. And as far as I know, the intersection observer itself, what we would want to do is, like, if we were going to write for the picture what we did for the source set, like we might end up doing something like this, and having an empty source set up here.
Yeah.
Or like a tiny image or something. And then we would just do the check for if, I bet it's in here somewhere. It's not. I was hoping that they would have the check, but there's like an if.
I have one. I have one in. So I've posted a link in the chat as well, which does have that exact check.
Okay, so we would be able to then say,
if you scroll
"Hey, look who wrote that."
Yeah, what? keep coming down. There's
here.
Keep going.
Keep going.
Keep going a bit further. I think it's down at nice, but there we go. Keep going. There we go. So we talk about that a little bit, and there's the check
here.
Yeah.
So we would just wrap the whole intersection observer bit in this check, right?
The other way around. So if loading is supported, then we'll use the. I'm trying to select it on the screen. We'll use the native approach, or we'll use our
Right. I get you. Yeah. So if we do support native lazy loading, all we're going to do is swap out the data sets. Otherwise, we set up the intersection observer and we do all the checks.
Exactly.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this Phil, this was a lot of fun. It was
a voyage of discovery. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like we made quite a bit of headway here. So I feel like we maybe didn't get quite as far as we were hoping to, but that is all right. I'm gonna take this off so that when we get to the page, like, people will know that there is actually an element here.
I think a lot of this looks really complicated in terms of how, we've been mangling lots of URLs and what have you. A lot of these things are conventions that, you could effectively pass in arguments here into a little helper that would generate that for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you can, there's some mangling that we did there to manipulate those URLs, but since they're patterns, we could effectively build a little helper that did that for us. So we could say, here's our source image, do the needful for us. Right. So it becomes something that could be a lot simpler since you do this work up front.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the nice thing about these, like, programmatic URLs is, if I know that everything I have is here, and I know what the image name is, this part I can just, like you said, you loop through it and just spit that out, and we get exactly what we need. And that's another thing that I like about this idea of image manipulation through the URL versus having to run some kind of an API in the background and get a bunch of unique URLs that you then have to kind of coordinate. This is very much like, tell me what you need and you'll get it. And Cloudinary just does that on the fly the first time that you request it, which is why the first request to an image, once we change the URL, is a little bit slower. But then after that, it's nice and fast because they've already generated it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally.
I think we've done some damage today, Phil. Where can people find you on the internet?
So you can find me either on my own site, which is hawksworks.com.
Hawksworks?
With an X instead of the KS, because I was trying to be trendy back in the late 90s.
I am so here for this. So good.
So that's me. Or I'm Phil Hawksworth, just spelt without any shenanigans, on Twitter. So both of those places you can find me.
All right. So thanks y'all so much for coming by today. We've got a double header today. So we are actually going to do another stream later today with Rich Harris. Rich Harris, if you are familiar with his work, has built like everything. He built Rollup. Yeah. He's been very involved in lots and lots of things, but most recently he's been involved with Svelte. And Svelte is a static site generator that kind of bucks the idea of like you use a framework for it. It's more like you're going to write some code and Svelte will compile all of that away. I don't really get how it works. I'm super excited to learn about it. So he's going to come on. That's at 4:30 Pacific today. If you go to the site, you can add this to your calendar. We also have been able to get Chris Biscardi on the show. So we've got on Thursday, Chris is going to come on. We're going to build the Party Corgi website. And then next week on Tuesday, Tara Minixic is going to come on, and we're going to learn about Netlify build plugins, which is exciting because that's what I want to turn this image stuff that we did today into, is a build plugin to like automate that stuff. And then we got Sebastian is coming on from 8base. We're going to learn about kind of like combining REST APIs into single GraphQL endpoint, which is really cool. Like so many good things are happening. It's so much fun. I can't believe that people want to talk to me on this show. I can't believe that you want to come and hang out and watch, chat. Like it just makes me just so happy inside all the time. Side note, another thing that makes me happy. Look at this hat. This hat is made out of cork.
What is that?
It's the doofiest thing that I've bought in a long time. It's the most quintessentially Portland piece of merchandise that I think you can buy. But it's really making me happy. I feel like it doesn't make my head look enormous, which is what hats usually do.
Yeah, I imagine it's made out of artisanally sourced, hand ground coffee, or it smells very much.
And
like
I am sure that it's all like laser cut. This is like a wood patch. If you've never been to Portland, you should come here sometime and just walk around and witness how much of a documentary Portlandia actually is. And I did. I got the Hacktoberfest shirt for this year, which I'm very excited about because I saw people getting pictures of it. Like everybody's posting pictures of their Hacktoberfest shirt, and mine hadn't shown up, and this was like weeks ago, right? So I was like, oh, maybe I don't get mine this year. But it showed up yesterday, so I'm thrilled. Like I got all sorts of new stuff.
That's pretty fancy.
Feeling great today. All right, y'all. We chat. Stay tuned. We're gonna raid. Phil, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I've really enjoyed it. Thanks so much for bearing with me as we kind of waded through all of that stuff. It's been a lot of fun. It's great to be around to do this. Thanks.
Yeah, it's super fun. All right, y'all. We'll catch you next time. Or I guess later today. Bye.
See ya. Bye.